You want that up? You're right there with that, mate. Just get it a bit closer if you need to. How are you, mate? Good?
Yeah, I'm well.
Where did you come from to be here today, Gerry?
I travelled down from a little town called Bopple, which is just north of Maryborough.
How come you at the big shed here with Watto going to have a bit of a chat? How did you get to be here?
Well, a couple of fellas a year ago said that I needed to meet this fella, and I didn't sort of rush into it. And then another fella come to me a month ago and said, "Hey, you need to come and see this fella."
Who was that bloke?
One fella was Victor.
Victor Bray. Where are you, Victor? Is Victor here or is he out there holding on to his car? Can Victor hear what's going on? Get him in so he can hear.
Thanks, mate.
I'm bigger than him. No, I'm not bigger than him, but I'm older than him. Yeah, Gerry, that's right. Victor, who's back here this year, and he'll crank that big super rocket up there after the swim, said, you've got to meet this bloke called Gerry Gale. You know him. Who is Gerry Gale? Who is this Gerry Gale that Victor told me about? Just a little quick bit of who this bloke was.
Mate, the bloke Victor used to know, I was a steel fabricator, a drug dealer, an alcoholic, a womaniser, and just a straight-out bastard, I suppose. That's about it.
If you had to write your obituary to go on your tombstone today, what would you reckon? What would it look like? What would you write on it?
I suppose that if it was to be written, it would be written, you know, there was a bloke who wasted his whole life. Somebody that turned his back on most things that and never really had any peace in his life, I suppose.
So you said wasted your life. So you met the big fella.
I had an encounter with Jesus about 4 years ago. I filled my lungs up full of vomit, flatlined. I didn't have any peace in my life. I had a challenge where I had to go and tell my wife I'd slept with all her friends. I asked a few people, you know, that have been divorced before. I said, you know, what do you recommend here? And all my mates said, no, don't do it. Just keep living how you've lived. Just lie.
How did you live? What was this life your wife didn't know about?
The life I led, separate to my home life, was, you know, like I travelled with a fairly wild crowd. You know, I was into drugs, alcohol, women. All that sort of scene just seems to roll on. Like, you can't be involved in the parties and the drugs. You know, once you start getting involved, everything just sort of flows on and your life's really a blur.
You been into witchcraft?
Been into witchcraft, yeah.
How old were you and how did you get sucked into that?
At the age of about 16, I met a woman that was about 38 and she was pretty hot, great set of tits. And, you know, she sort of sucked me in and said, you know, come home, I'm going to show you some stuff. And I thought, this is good, you know, not the normal sort of chase your girlfriend around, have to fight for it. 38-year-old woman when you're, you know, only young, sort of on the money.
So there's actually witches in our society we live in?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know that part of life, and we're not going to spend the next part talking about it. But this man here is meant to be here talking to me today, and there will be blokes here today that you will hear very definitely that you need to go and have a chat to this bloke before he goes home today. And we don't have to go into great detail. But you had a wife and a mother who actually had some connection with God.
Yeah. My wife prayed, my mother prayed for, 20 years, I suppose. My wife cried herself to sleep for at least 20 years. I've been run over by semi-trailers, knocked over by cars, I've been electrocuted. I've had tanks explode and throw me from here almost to the banner over there, but I'm still alive for purpose. Like, I should have died many times, but I'm still here.
When you told your wife that you'd had encounters with all the friends, what happened?
Well, it's hard to explain, but it's like when you walk into a room and you turn a light off, there's nothing. It's just dark. And I said to God, you know, because the Lord convicted me to put what I'd hidden away for so long in the open, and he didn't say it would be easy, he just said, trust me. And it took my wife a good 2 years even to talk to me and sort of respond in any way. She had plenty of opportunity. Like when I got married, I'd give her a bullet. I said, that's for you, and if you ever do the wrong thing by me, I'll put it in your head.
Say that again so the boys know exactly what you're saying.
Like when I decided to get married, I said to my wife on a wedding day, I said, here's a round out of a rifle, here's a bullet. And I said, if you ever do the wrong thing, I'll put it in your head. That meant, you know, I just had to let her know where she stood in the role of where I stood. And she still chose, and I couldn't understand. Like most women would just say, you know, bash it, and they'd walk away. But she still chose to stand by me. And I don't know till this very day why she did, but I'm glad she did.
What about children? You have.
I've only got one son.
Why have you only got one son?
Well, in what I used to do, children were a liability to me, so I figured that if I didn't have a kid, I didn't have the weakness. Someone to get at me normally wouldn't come to me, but they would come and take something that I had that I cared about. So I sort of limited what I had to care about.
So when Victor first spoke to you, and you said that God had done a job on you, and he said, what are you hiding from? You're doing the God, you use God as an excuse thing. What, can you just sort of tell the boys, because you were as far away from God as you could possibly be?
Yeah. When I decided, my two older brothers died. I didn't believe in God at all. When I was young, I got run over by a car, smashed me up pretty bad. The three specialists on the day told me I'd never walk. They said, you'll never walk. And a bloke walked into my hospital room, asked me by name, said God sent him. Well, I give him an earful at that, and persisted while I was laid up in plaster till the doctors could work out what they could do with me. He said he was told to come and pray for me, so he put his hands on my cast and he prayed. At that, all the pain went out of my leg. I couldn't understand it. And all the bloke asked me to do was believe there was a God. He said I knew there was a devil, but God needed me to know that he really existed. And being the bloke of my word, I said, okay, I acknowledge there's a God, and still went back to my old life. It's so easy to fall back into something that you're familiar with or more comfortable with than something that's more challenging.